going to juice 4 navel oranges. I already did that for the purpose of this video, but I do it with my hands. I don't have a special citrus juicer. So you cut the orange in half and then you use your fingers to squeeze out all the juice. Make sure you wash the outside of the orange before you do this step. I usually use like Fit vegetable fruit wash and rinse that off thoroughly. But yeah, this is 4 juiced oranges. And for measuring in this video, you can use a tablespoon measurer or whatever you feel comfortable with. I cook so often that I'm really good at eyeballing it. Bring out your measuring spoons if you really need the extra assurance that you're getting the right measurements. But I'm going to do about 1.5 teaspoons of this garlic paste in there. And this is from Aldi. And this is a really good, quick way to get the flavor of minced garlic without having to go through all the work. I usually do have ginger paste on hand, but I don't right now. But this is like the next best thing, is this pickled ginger. It's already like peeled and sliced. All we have to do is mince it up. So if you can't find ginger paste, you can find pickled ginger at any Asian grocery store in your area. So this is a really good time saver as well. See how it comes in these really long strips? We're going to mince that up using our chef knife. Okay, and I think we got a little bit more ginger than we're actually going to use, so I'm just going to save some of that in a little Tupperware, but we're going to do 1 tablespoon of chopped ginger. If you can see that, put it in with our orange base. Okay, and this step is totally optional. I get not everybody loves spicy food, but I certainly do. And this is my favorite kind of sriracha, is this Sky Valley brand. It is organic too and gluten-free. Highly recommend this one if you can find it. I'm going to put about 2 teaspoons of sriracha in here. But yes, if you don't like spicy food, just omit this step. Okay, next step, we're going to pour 2 tablespoons of soy sauce into our orange sauce bowl. The brand that I love and has never failed me is just Kikkoman's soy sauce, and you can get a large container of this from Costco. It keeps a long time because it's so salty, so I usually get the bigger container of it. But if you are soy-free, gluten-free, I recommend using Bragg's coconut aminos instead. That is a really good option. And the protein we're going to be using in this dish is soy-based. It is tofu. So if you find you're sensitive to tofu, you definitely can use mushrooms instead. I would just use maybe a lighter enoki mushroom or something like that, nothing too dark, because we want the flavor to be we want the sauce to be the star of this dish, and like a shiitake or a cremini mushroom would maybe be a little bit too much for this dish. So that is a good gluten-free option for you as well. And for that, you would just saute those on medium high heat for about 2 to 3 minutes, reducing the heat slightly once you get them in the pan, and season them with a little salt, and you're good to go for a gluten-free version of this recipe. I also diced up 1 small red onion for this recipe. If you hear my pans making weird spluttering noises, I think it's because there was a little water on my stove, like from when I went to wipe it down before cooking. Sorry about that, but I'm heating up my large 10-inch cast iron pan. I use like Lodge brand. Those are really good quality for the money. You can usually get those at like garage sales, or you can get them on really deep discount. I think it's really essential to have a cast iron pan in your collection. We're heating that on medium high heat, and we're going to be sauteing our onions with a little bit of canola oil in that, and I'm getting 1.5 cups of filtered water to a boil in this 3-quart saucepan. As you can see there, I do not have a fancy stock pan here. This is just a Revierware brand one I got from a thrift store. It's actually really good quality for the money if you can get a vintage set of these, because they have copper bottoms, if you can see that. And I find they heat really quickly and evenly. And yeah, they're non-reactive because they're stainless steel. So I put no chicken bouillon cube in there, and then I'm going to put 1.5 cups of long grain jasmine rice into the water. We're going to put the rice in there, bring it back to a boil. Okay, and as you can see there, we're going to bring that water back to a boil, and when it comes back to a boil, we're going to put the lid back on top of the rice. Okay, now can you hear the bubbles really going violently in there? That is when we know we can turn the heat down to low. If you can see that, turning it down to low. This is going to make perfectly steamed rice this way, because we know that it's fully come back to a boil, and then yeah, turning it quickly down to low. We're going to set our timer on our oven to 15 minutes. And I swear the rice comes out perfectly every single time with this method. It has not failed me. If you have the time, I do recommend rinsing your rice a few times with cold water and then running it through a sieve and repeating. That is going to get you the best texture on the rice, and it's going to make sure your rice is clean. Next up, I put 2 teaspoons of canola oil into my cast iron pan, which is now on low heat. I had it on medium high heat for about 5 minutes, and as you could see, it got very hot and was smoking. The thing I love about cast iron is that it really holds on to its heat. So I didn't really even need to turn it back up very high for it to work. I think I'll turn it up to maybe medium low, if you can see that. And we're good to go for sauteing on that. We're going to do that for about 4.5, 5 minutes. Another kitchen hack I wanted to share with you guys. Do you know how heavy cast iron pans are? I am never able to lift it up with one wrist and then transfer what's in the pan into a bowl. So I just take my good old wooden spoon here, or a spatula also works, and I just transfer that right into the bowl. I'm not hurting my wrist to make a delicious dinner. Okay, and can you see now how thick that's already getting? My better than bouillon cube needs to dissolve a little bit more, but it's very thick from the tapioca. I find tapioca is just a little smoother, in my opinion, than using a cornstarch. But yeah, we're whisking this using like an underhand motion, if you can see that. We're going to do that for about a minute, and then we're going to turn the heat off. But it's really easy to make your own stir-fry sauces. You pretty much want an acid, something umami, so like a soy sauce. If you didn't use oranges, you could use like rice vinegar or something like that, and usually garlic and ginger. But I'm turning that heat down a little bit. It's kind of bubbling too violently for me. Turn it to medium-low. But I think it's done. Okay, next step, we're doing our protein, and we're using extra firm tofu. I really like the brand from Costco. I find you do not need to press the water out of this one. It's already ready to bake in the oven. And that is my hack to doing stir fry, by the way. I don't actually use a wok. I use my broiler or my oven at a really hot temperature to get my vegetables very crispy. I find you get more surface area on the pan, and you can do more at once. And we're all about time-saving techniques in this kitchen. I promise you, if I have a hack on how to reduce the time and the effort into making something delicious and healthy, I will do that. I promise you, I have all the tricks in the book. So we're going to be doing broccoli and tofu in this recipe. So I'm going to start by cutting this in half, if you can see that. Again, I can't really do this one-handed. Well, maybe I can. Slice it down the middle in half. I cut each piece into 3, and see how they're about the same width. We're going to cut these in half down the center as well. Okay, and now that these are sliced down the middle, I'm going to cut these diagonally in half. I'll show you with one. like so, to make these triangles. And this gives like a nice large size piece of tofu. Next, you see how I just lightly oiled this pan. You can use pastry brush. I'm lazy. I'm just going to use my hand. It's clean though. I washed my hands. But I'm just going to spread this over the bottom of the pan. Okay, and then I'm going to put a little bit of salt, kosher salt, over that tofu. And again, most of the flavor in this recipe is going to be coming from the sauce that we made, so don't worry about seasoning the tofu overly much. We're baking this at 425 degrees for about 20 minutes, and I'm also going to be cleaning and chopping the broccoli while this bakes, so stay tuned for that step. Another quick cooking hack for you guys: get a jumbo bag of triple washed broccoli florets. I think, yeah, these are from Costco, but if you only have access to like smaller bags, that's fine. But they've already chopped and washed this for you. I'm going to cut them into slightly smaller size just because I think it's easier to eat. But yeah, they've already done most of the work for you, and it's thoroughly washed and everything. So I'm going to cut these into slightly smaller florets, and then I'm going to put them on another rimmed baking sheet. And then we'll also put that in the oven when it's ready to go. The tofu's already baking. I have my timer set for that for 20 minutes, and I'll check on it. Okay, see how the florets are all roughly about the same size? They're about like an inch, inch and a half florets. In the bag, they're slightly larger, so I chopped them to be about the same size, and you want to make sure that they all have a spot on the pan itself. So if you have a little bit of extra, that's okay. You can save that for something else if you'd like. But we want to make sure this is touching the pan because that is what's going to make it actually bake instead of steam. And that's what's going to make this taste amazing and roasted and delicious. And this is 36 ounces of broccoli, so it's a lot of broccoli. So if you have trouble getting your kids to eat their broccoli, I think this is a recipe they may enjoy. You can just call it like orange tofu chicken and broccoli or whatever you want to get them to eat it. But I love roasted broccoli. It's probably my favorite way to eat broccoli, if I'm being real. If you want a slightly healthier option, you can also steam your broccoli for about 7 minutes using a steamer basket and a large stock pot with a lid. It works really well, but it won't be as flavorful as this. Another kitchen hack I have canola oil in a squeezy bottle, and we're just going to drizzle this over the broccoli. It's going to end up being about 3 tablespoons worth of oil. And again, not all of this oil is actually going to be digested or eaten by everybody. Some of it always gets left on the pan. It's really just about making sure everything's evenly coated as you can. And then I use my hands. Again, hands are like my favorite kitchen tool. As long as they're clean, they're always available and ready to go. But we just lightly make sure all of the florets are coated in that canola oil. A little bit of kosher salt. About a teaspoon, I would say. And again, we can taste this after it's done cooking. If it needs a little bit more salt, we can add a little bit more. But yeah, we already have a decent amount of sodium from our sauce. Okay, we're about 11 to 10 minutes into our baking time on that tofu. We're baking that broccoli on the lower rack there. If you can see that, we're going to bake that also for about 20 minutes. And we're going to stir it halfway through at about the 10-minute mark. And as you can see, these are getting lightly golden now. Beautiful, perfect. I love tofu, especially when it's prepared properly. But yeah, we're just going to flip all of these over, pop them back in the oven, and bake it for about another 10 minutes or so. All right, I transferred the sauce into there. I think I'm going to stir in 2 tablespoons of agave nectar. This makes it taste a little bit like takeout chicken. You can omit this step if you are looking to reduce the calories or sugar in this recipe, but I think it makes it taste more like takeout Chinese food. So if you want more of a sweet and sour vibe, add 2 tablespoons of agave to this and stir it in. All right, and then I'm going to add about 1.5 teaspoons of sesame oil. And that's another one of my favorite flavor hacks. You just want to add a little bit, and I do not use sesame oil for cooking. I use this Kadya brand pure sesame oil from Japan, but really use your favorite brand, you're good to go. I don't use sesame oil for cooking because it has a very low smoke point. So what you're going to end up getting is a very bitter and smoky aftertaste, and it's not what we're looking for. It's something you want to add at the end of making your sauce or your recipe and just stir it into what you're making for the flavor. Okay, now we pulled out our tofu. It's all baked and golden. We baked it for 20 minutes, flipped it halfway through with a pair of silicone tip tongs. And you have to be a little careful when you flip tofu. I kind of wiggle it a little bit until it breaks free from the pan because it does stick a little bit. But I find if you use parchment paper, then you don't get the nice golden browned tofu. So it's really whatever you want to deal with. Basically, if you don't want to bother, you can use parchment paper, but I think this tastes better. So that's done. We have about 10 minutes more on our broccoli, so we're going to flip that now. We're going to toss that and then put it right back in the oven and bake it for another 10 minutes. All right, this is our roasted broccoli. We baked it for about 12 to 15 minutes until you start to see the edges start to turn a little bit golden brown. That's when we know that it's ready to go. And then we're going to toss this into our sauce, and then we'll plate the tofu on top of that with the rice. I will show what it looks like when we put everything together, but that is all of our elements. And if you find that you need to use the microwave to reheat your portion, feel free, because a lot of this stuff, you can't cook everything at the same time. You know what I mean? So it's a good idea for food safety to perhaps microwave each person serving for about a minute before serving it, just for safety. We're going to toss this. I'm just going to show you a little bit how this works, but we're going to toss the broccoli. And again, I'm only doing a small portion. I just want to show you how it works. We're going to toss it with the tongs into the sauce, and then the broccoli is going to absorb all of that delicious orange sauce right into it. So that is our next step. Okay, and that's what it's going to look like once you've coated all of the broccoli in the sauce. And then we're going to put the dish together. All right, and that's our final dish. I do about 1 cup of rice, as much broccoli as you'd like to eat. And yes, I heat it for about a minute in the microwave just to make sure everything's really hot and fresh, and you're good to go. This is a healthier version of your favorite Chinese takeout orange sesame chicken. We do broccoli, lots of broccoli and some tofu and rice to make it a complete vegan meal. Tune in next time for more of my kitchen hacks. And again, I'm Christy Cutsforth. I am a vegan home chef and homemaker, and I have been a vegan for a very long time, over 12 years, and I don't regret it for a minute. We do this for the planet, we do this for the animals, and we do this for our health. All right, now you guys get in the kitchen, go feed your family, and after that, take a long break, read a book, watch whatever you're into on Netflix right now, and just relax. You deserve it.